With NEC, George's presentation is entitled Digital Signage and Getting Back to Work.
Nicole, just tell me when to begin.
Yes, please begin.
All right. Well, sorry about the technical difficulty, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. What a brisk group for such an early morning. I'm sure not everybody's just West Coast, but over here on the East Coast as well. Formally, I'm George Borden, the Solution Architect with NEC Display Corporation, and it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm probably going to talk about a little more than what was alluded to in the title of the talk, because there's so much to talk about with what's going on these days. And we're going to keep a flow to it. I'll talk about some of our products that are central to getting back into the normal workflow of whatever your vertical business is, or your education, whatever you're a part of. You know, hopefully there's going to be a takeaway here today that's going to help you out. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get right into this and just kind of talk about the broad strokes here. So, you know, we've been imposed upon some things that we never expected. We were living, you know, in a nice, you know, systematic world until the wool got pulled from under us, and we've been having to deal with this. So the one thing that I've done is I've really taken a different approach to how I'm doing my consulting and my spec for customers by offering more of a long-term approach, more of a practical approach. And not all of it has to do with the onset of discussing technology. There has to be a little bit more, at least from my vantage point, with putting these solutions together for our company and our third-party solution partners. So some of the challenges that we've had to reevaluate are obviously the verbal and audio communication that we were used to when we were in person, talking to one another, looking at the eyes, you know, the body language, the tone, the inflection, the other body language that we can't see outside of this visible spectrum here on the screen. So a lot of that has changed, and we've had to kind of accumulate some of our previous experience and morph them a little bit to adhere to sitting at the desk all the time in our home office environments. Also, written and illustrative communication has changed a bit. You know, we're not able to, you know, put a notepad next to somebody and do a quick sketch. You know, those things have all become virtualized for the most part. We're going to talk a little bit about that and the different use cases and the technology that can surround that and make those verticals even more successful. Media communication really hasn't changed much, except for the repository and the storage and the method in which we download those communication file types and the way that we share those. So there has to be some type of discussion about file share and some type of repository. You know, no longer is it acceptable for USB drives holding, you know, individual bits of data, especially when a company is virtual and not, you know, necessarily all in proximity anymore. So media communications definitely changed. The other big one here is on-prem, off-prem balance. So as much as we want to get back to the normal world, it's not going to happen anytime in the near future. And I know that from talking to a lot of our customers, a lot of the people that I consult with, anybody from the big Fortune 100s down to small, medium business, they have these challenges for on-prem and off-prem. As you know, out there, most of the businesses have some type of delay. Some are getting back to a balance where they're favoring, you know, those that can come back in a healthy way and those that are keeping folks that are at risk at home. So there's different things that you have to think about outside of the technological proposition. So for instance, CDC guidelines and any of the other authorities out there that are recommending, you know, these type of come back to office type of procedures, you know, that has to be kept in place. So the on-prem, off-prem balance really is almost a pivot point for how any of our vertical businesses are going to be moving forward down the road. Some of the extreme businesses that I have, meaning extreme that they're not coming back, at least in discussion until late 2021. So this is going to last for quite some time. Ultimately, what this presentation and this whole event is about choosing the right technology for whatever your situation is, and we'll definitely get into that. And then obviously cleaning and disinfecting is on top of everybody's mind, so we'll talk about a little best practices, procedures for that as well. So considerations for distance, you know, as we get into this, you know, there's different verticals, there's different needs. Not everybody's using just an 8.5 by 11 to share and to do ideation on and things like that. There's other more advanced vertical businesses like architectural design, engineering, building information management. You know, depending upon what you do and how you do it, that's the place where we start. So I want to know what you're currently doing from a business process perspective, what kind of documentation you're currently using, how do you need to share that, just the whole thing that we've been through we have to consider those considerations for distance. Now, within our product family, we have two specific products that we're positioning for any vertical that's in the collaboration and interactive space. And that first product that we have is called the Collaboration Board, appropriately, or the CB series. Now, this particular device is going to, just like the one I'm going to show you here in a minute, it's going to keep within the theme of flexibility, being malleable, being ready and open for anything that may come our way into the future as a surprise. Because I think a lot of us, we've been locked down. We were forced to get into remote meeting technology. That's not a bad thing. That's actually a very good thing, because there's been a lot of benefits that have become as a result, believe it or not. I know a lot of folks, they don't have that commute anymore, so they've technically given themselves a raise by not having those commuting expenses with fuel and food and a host of other things, being close to family. So we're going to have these things around for a long time, but let's begin here with this particular model. So this model here is what I would consider our entry-level model. This is a 4K display, and a 4K display that comes in 3 different sizes: 65, 75, and 86. It has whiteboard technology built in, specifically designed for us by a company out of Ireland called DisplayNote. We also can plug in different peripherals to this device. So if you're in a vertical environment and you have, say, for instance, education, and you want to have 3 different teachers teaching from their device to this unit, they can actually do that. They can plug an HDMI connection into the unit, or they can use a wireless sharing technology to have their device show up on this unit. The unit even has an OPS computer slot, so you can put an AMD or an Intel computer into this unit. It's great for media presentations. You can do annotation over top of any element that you bring in. So if you're on a web browser and you're showing a YouTube video to your class and you pause the YouTube video, you can actually open up the annotation tool and annotate over top of that, and then save that as a PNG image file to distribute to your audience or your class. So great flexibility built in. You can sideload applications into this unit using APK files. So any of the other applications that you're used to using, such as Adobe Acrobat, you can load into this unit. And then you can do things like customize the screen background as well. From a hardware perspective, it's very powerful. I mentioned a couple of the inputs that you can use, such as the 3 different HDMI inputs. You can also pass touch to those external devices. So essentially the CB series becomes a controller for your external devices if you wanted to do so. Natively on the unit, it has a solid state media player running Android 8.0, and from there it runs other bits of software that whatever you see fit. So we have passive pens on this device, so you don't have to worry about connectivity. You don't have to worry about charging or batteries. They're basically easy to use. And if you lose one of those, you can use your finger or any other blunt instrument to write on. From a sound perspective, you can use the built-in 12-watt speakers that we have in the unit, or you can bring digital audio out, or you can bring audio in. Very, very flexible unit to work with your audio environments, whether they are classrooms or boardrooms or whatever you have. Now, there's other detail to talk about, but we're kept to a very quick time frame today, and obviously we can engage at a later time personally or in another group to talk about these things. But moving on, our flagship unit that we have in the space is called the Infinity Board. Now, the Infinity Board, unlike the CB board, this is our premium brand unit. The foundation of this unit is our V-Series display, and what we've done is we've surrounded our V-Series display with what we call the best-of-breed third-party products in the space. This unit comes in 4 different sizes. In addition to 65, 75, and 86, it also has a 55-inch version as well. So from the peripheral standpoint, the touch mechanism that we have on top of the Infinity Board is called Flat Frog In-Glass Touch. Very accurate, highly responsive touch using a hybrid IR sensor technology. Highly recommend that you look into this. It's a really great, accurate solution, especially for individuals that are using these things, a majority of the day. So if you're in engineering, or if you're in any type of, sensitive type of, where you need that detail and that accuracy, and also ultimately no fatigue on your part for writing on it, this Flat Frog In-Glass Touch is a great addition to your arsenal for sure. The NEC OPS, we provide an OPS i7 computer in this, 16 gigs of RAM, very powerful. It's open platform, so it can run any of the software that you're currently using right now. Of course, Zoom just did a great presentation. You can run that all day long. Any of the other flavors of collaboration and interactive and meeting software you can run as well. Pre-installed applications come with this device as a courtesy, so there are a few of those. We even include a version of Mosaic Connect, which we also have on our CV board. And Mosaic Connect allows up to 6 individual external users to present their information from their device individually. So you can have an Apple device or an Android device or use a Google Chrome web browser to present your information remotely to the Infinity board. We also have stereo speakers on the unit. The 55-inch unit has a single soundbar that you can position on the top or the bottom, but the other 3 larger models have stereo speakers flanking the right and the left. The webcam that we have for this unit is the Hudley IQ. A lot of you, I'm sure, know about the Hudley IQ and how fantastic a camera that it is. And you can position the camera either on the right and the left-hand side with the built-in cutouts in the speakers. The other thing, too, with this particular product, we have an option for Quick Launch. Now, Quick Launch is an add-on program, a fantastic add-on program, may I add, that allows you to really consolidate and condense the interface of the product. Right now, the screenshot that you're looking at now is showing a screenshot example of Quick Launch. So if you have an environment where you don't want the Windows 10 operating system desktop to be visible, or in other words, if you don't want anybody to accidentally get into administrative settings or, you know, mischievous people out there screwing around, you can prevent them completely from doing this with the Quick Launch. So Quick Launch will lock out all of the back-end administrative control panels and all the things that somebody could do with the operating system. But also what it does is it puts convenient boxes for the meetings that you're currently going to have during the day, or you can have quick launch buttons for applications, and then you can put whatever piece of software you want in any other bucket named accordingly. So this design can be changed to have your logo, your particular colors, whatever your customers' logos are, colors, it can be changed accordingly. So from those 2 particular models here, you have what I would consider the entry-level version, the CB series unit, very flexible. You can add on to it to make it something more than what it is inherently, or if you have the need for the higher end type of interactivity in boardroom and conference room scenarios, then the Infinity board can also be favored. So we have those 2 ready to go. In addition, any of our other displays can also be met with a touch overlay. So if you have any other of our displays make sense for your environment and you need to add touch to those, we can easily do that as well. Now, because this is a multi-vertical type of presentation, let's just talk about some of the things that are considerations for some of these verticals. There's a few things that are redundant here, but in the corporate environment, we now have had to reevaluate our home office setup, to work accordingly so that we could work as seamlessly as if we were in the office. So, do we have things that can liaise effectively with any of the existing huddle rooms or meeting rooms that maybe some people are using going back into the office? Again, everybody's use case is different. Not everybody's going back. Some people are blending it based upon, their own particular rules and regulations. Carts are a great thing when it comes to this, this situation that we're under. I'm all about flexibility and keeping things where they may be repurposed. So if you have a display and you put it on a cart and you're moving it around in different locations, that's great. Once everything ends, which, let's just keep the positive light on. Once everything ends, then that cart can go away and then you can just fix that monitor somewhere stationary. So, being flexible is also a good thought as well. And then back to mobile office conference carts, that holds the same thing as public signage or anything like that. So again, flexibility and future use are what we're talking about here. Healthcare, just some things in healthcare, telehealth is a big thing, leveraging remote meetings and, with the vibrance that some of these displays can show x-rays and other intricate documents, they're finding that to be favorable. Actually, it's been going on for quite some time, but it's getting a lot more attention now. When it comes to, check-in procedures for live environments, everybody, again, has their own rules. Some people are taking temperature. Some people are putting up, plastic barriers or plexiglass barriers, things like that. But I've seen some folks where we're consulting with it where they're using like a virtual receptionist and they're using like a camera and a screen technology, and then it talks to the virtual receptionist behind the wall, and then you can buzz the person in. So you can use things like that if you have those type of steps and procedures for guiding people along. And just like the corporate environment, we have mobile public signage to think about and mobile carts as well. House of Worship, a little bit of a departure, but some things I find interesting with House of Worship. You have confidence monitors, in carts, of course, they have meeting and classroom considerations and public signage as well. And then lastly, education. One of the things that are great about some of these software packages that are coming about is that they're giving that point of view from if you were really a teacher looking at the audience. They're doing a really good job by having the different cubes there, some of the technologies that are out there. They're working on that so you can actually see a live audience view, and I think it's really good, especially for the education market. Home facilitators, so a lot of teachers are having a hard time from what I'm reading in certain articles, because it's definitely not the same, especially for younger kids, that need that hands-on attention. When those of us that have been working from home for a long time, or even older students, they can kind of get through it. But we have to make sure that we're giving that attention to the younger kids as possible. Not claiming that I'm an educator, but talking to a few educators, I become sensitive to their needs in that regard. And then lastly, also mobile public signage and conference carts as well. Now, switching gears a little bit here and kind of moving along and wrapping this up, there's some other things to talk about when we're into this world. We want to try to limit the amount of touch points on non-touch devices if at all possible. So one of the great things that we've been including for a long time is the human sensor accessory. And this human sensor accessory is an add-on to our displays where you can actually detect motion. So if a display, let's take an example, for instance, where you have a lobby in a corporate environment, and that lobby is maybe playing corporate signage. Well, upon detection with the human sensor accessory, it can actually change over to another feed. So if you have COVID information or a check-in procedure that you want to show and not have it be the consistent thing showing all day, then you can use this device in order to change the input for the video. And then once that message is done playing, it'll go back to the regular message again. It'll also change things like volume, and you can turn on the display and turn off the display as well. So it's a very powerful thing. So the other last two bits, and then we'll close it out here talking a little bit about disinfecting and cleaning, is that flexibility again is the way that we've been approaching customer engagement with technology in this time. So you can use things on the left-hand side of your screen there. You can see we have a DV LED poster, stands about 6 foot tall, has the ability to run independently without a media player, has a built-in media player in it. A USB drive can be put in and your media will play instantaneously. It can even be positioned in a 1x4 matrix, so you can actually stack it as a 1x4. So this is great because it can be moved around, and signage can be adjusted as well. And a lot of signage applications that are out there, to keep consistency in signage messaging, they also do a really good job by delivering that signage via HTML5 or some other type of media player, where the employee at home can actually open up an executable and see that live signage playing right on their desktop. Last but not least, when it comes to touch and interactivity, I know a lot of us are talking about not touching things, but that's not a reality completely. But we want to keep in mind the cleaning and disinfecting aspect of these devices, because around some of the units you have a frame, and on that frame, if you're not using the P cap like on our phone, that flat surface, you have a frame that's an infrared IR frame, and if you over clean it or you get a lot of liquid on the screen, that liquid can come down onto the electronics and ruin the screen. So you want to make sure that you're using, a two-step method. Number one is to use a disinfecting, cleaner like a Clorox. And CDC guidelines state that at least 70% alcohol should be used in order to do its effectiveness. So you start there, but what's going to happen is it's going to streak. So the Clorox wipe's going to streak, then you're going to use a window cleaner like Windex in order to get rid of the streaking. So there's a two-prong method in order to do that when it comes to cleaning the flat screens. Lastly, everybody, I'm going to end it here. I've done a lot of talking because there's a lot to say, but NEC, we're all about commercial grade solutions when it comes to projectors, displays, collaborations, and desktop. And again, I'm George Borden, the solution architect with NEC, and I'm more than happy to help you with any questions or any comments that I can at this time.
George, that was excellent. Thank you. And not surprisingly, we do have questions for NEC. We have a question from Matt. How loud are the fans on the OPS?
Yeah, they're I don't have a decibel count for you, but they're definitely, it adds some noise. Right behind me to my left here that I'm pointing is an infinity board, and the OPS is on right now, but you can't hear the fan. I'm more worried and concerned about the fans that are inside of our displays, because we can turn on multiple fans that are actually going to create more of a noise than the OPS. But the OPS players, they don't create as much noise as one would think.
Great. Question from Rob. Does NEC offer video wall technology?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've been doing video walls for a long time, and you know, a majority of our high-end displays, the X and the U series, they can be tile matrixed together. So we can actually tile matrix up to a 10 by 10 matrix with any of our tile matrix capable displays.
And we have another question. I have 3 NEC displays in my home. What would you recommend as the size model for WFH workers and teachers? That's from Michael for work from home workers and teachers.
Work from home, I was like, yeah, all kinds of acronyms out there. But, you know, my big answer to that is, how much space do you have in your room? So behind me is a 65-inch CB board. Over here is a 55-inch Infinity board. Over here, you can't see it, but there's a 50-inch P series and a couple others over here. So it's really a monitor playground here. But again, it just depends on what kind of space that you have. I think at the bare minimum, a 55 or a 65-inch display may seem a little large if you have, you know, a home office environment. And do you need touch? Do you need interactivity? You know, those are questions that I would come up with as well. But ultimately, the big question to that is, how much space do you have in your home office, and what do you really need to do with displays?
Thank you. Question from Christopher. Apologies if I missed it, but are the collaboration board displays also using Flat Frog touch sensors?
Christopher, no. The CB series uses IR touch.
Great. Another question from Jacob. NEC, can you please tell us about your direct view LED wall, specifically the heat rating, and how that can possibly implement, how architects can implement these into lobbies?
Yeah, Jacob, I appreciate that, and I would love to talk with you offline, because there's a lot of information to relay about direct view LED. As most of you know out there, you know, the LED emits most of its heat from the front. We can talk about that when it comes to, you know, what BTUs you're looking at, you know, understanding or in the environment. But I encourage you, you know, reach out to me and we can schedule a call to talk about that. And I would even pull in my my direct view LED specialist, Ken Silvestri, on that call as well.
Okay, excellent. I'd like to open the forum for more questions. Does anyone have any questions for George at NEC? We'd love to hear your questions. Otherwise,
I'd like to ask a question. Can you hear me?
Great.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Hey, George, this is David. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what you guys are doing on direct view LED? I suspect that the one question about video walls may have been speaking to that, as opposed to the tiled approach.
Yeah, video. Well, from direct view LED, what I featured on this slide deck was an LED poster that we have, and it's basically an outlier from our direct view LED business. So we can do direct view LED for any indoor application, for any outdoor application, whatever the need is. About a couple years ago, we bought, you know, a company in Germany, S Quadrat, and we have our own wholly owned subsidiary for LED at NEC. So when it comes to walls or any LED application, direct view LED, indoor or outdoor, we can accommodate that.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Are there any more questions? Well, excellent. George, this was fantastic. I know everyone's very excited about our large format display giveaway from NEC. George, we have 126 attendees in our virtual trade show at the moment. So you get to pick a number between 1 and 127, and let's call out that winner for, again, a large format NEC display.
The number is 66.
Okay, let me go all the way down to 66.
Why'd you pick that number, George? That seemed like a sure thing for you.
It seemed like a nice in the middle number.
Okay.
John Chen. John Chen, you are the winner of our NEC large format display. Congratulations. Congratulations to John Chen. Okay, well, again, that was one of several giveaways that we will be handing out during the course of our exciting virtual trade show today. This will be going on until 5:30. We have another presentation coming up, but we're going to take a 5-minute break unless anyone has any questions for George, because we do have some time and our Q&A is still open. Next up, excuse me, we do have BrightSign, but again, we're going to take a short break. And I'm going to leave the Q&A open. Thank you.
George, while we have the extra time, and I guess maybe I'm the most interested in this, but in the sense of the direct view LED, can you talk about kind of pixel pitches and kind of what your variety of offerings you guys have?
Yeah, from a pixel pitch perspective, 1.2 millimeter pixel pitch is our tightest pixel pitch, and we can also go up to 16 millimeter for outdoor. So I mean, it's a full complement, you know, of direct view LED products. We have square, 500 millimeter square models. We also have 16:9 ratio, panels as well. We have complete kits in distribution. So if someone wanted to emulate, say, a 2x2 video wall that they would do with a 55-inch model, we have direct view LED options for that to adhere to that same diagonal size. And the beauty of the kit is that it's all included. So you get all the pieces and parts, everything, labor is included for those installs that are usually in the, the 2x2 to the 3x3, diagonal video wall. So we have those available, especially future proofing, from getting away from video wall for those opportunities that need to do that. And video, direct view LED has a lot of benefits, no seams. It has a long uptime, reliability, 80 to 100,000 hours of use at full power. So the direct view LED is becoming more and more of a consideration, and we're pushing it more and more, especially for those businesses that are looking, down the road a bit.
So we're seeing them. Oh, sorry. We're seeing them even in higher education. Any place where a larger format. What would be the size and resolution? What would be the size if we wanted to do a 1080, 1920 by 1080 display? What does that equate to when you use your 1.2 pixel pitch?
Well, I would want to know first what the viewer's going to do, or how far away is the furthest person going to be, how close is that person going to be, and when you have those two measurements, that typically determines what type of pixel pitch that you put in place for the opportunity. So each one of these cases is different. So when a customer comes to our team and they say, hey, here's where we want to put this particular model, we want this. Sometimes 1.2 might be overkill. Sometimes a 4.0 pixel pitch may be appropriate, but there are measurements and guides that can help you along. And feel free to email me, anybody that's still out there listening, that I can set up a meeting with you and talk with you about that and give you the nice rundown over how that works.
So regarding the distances, probably some time ago, I heard you should multiply by 10. So if you say it's a 1.2 millimeters, you should be 12 feet away from the display. However, I would say I've seen 1.5 millimeter pixels that even from up close I thought was quite satisfactory. And so, what's your take today as relative to that back of the envelope calculation?
Yeah,
if possible.
I would agree with that. I mean, my direct view LED specialist would be able to answer that a little more scientifically off the top of their head. But if you have recommendations from like 1.5 millimeter pixel pitch should be 0 to 5 feet back, for the closest user. But it may be overkill, because the tighter that you get in pixel pitch, the more costly the direct view LED solution. So if a business has 1.2 millimeter and that's the tightest pixel pitch that they have, but 3 pixel pitch, 3.0 millimeter will work, and it's going to save them $30,000, yet still have the visual that they're looking to accomplish, then that's a big consideration as well.
Very good. Thanks, George.
You're welcome. Thank you.